Oh, sorry about that, guys. We ended up having a technical difficulty. We just ended up accidentally hitting the live stream, and no worries, but we were still officially back on. I really do appreciate it, guys. Um, but anyway, so yeah, I think we've got a great addition here for the Spotlight Sports Network with Jay in the Bay, covering all things San Francisco, including his diehard 49ers. I think it's going to be great. It's going to be fun. Can't wait for much more of it. So, coming up next, I'm going to be talking a lot more about. I'm going to be talking about what's been going on here in the NFL, and not to mention too the latest trade in the NBA, and why I think Houston right now is in the position of imploding. They're in the position of imploding. There's no doubt about that, and I'll explain a lot more about that, and also my prime predictions are coming up here at the bottom end of the hour. So tune in, guys. Really do appreciate it, man. But yeah, let's take our break. We'll be right back here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. So, as you've seen before the live stream here, if you checked out the merchandise, you can go online to the Spotlight Sports Network and go into the merch section as you go online to the website and get your Snake Sports Talk Show gear today. We've got hats, we've got masks, we've got hoodies, we've got all sorts of stuff, you name it. We're going to be having our sales coming up here soon, since we are in the holiday season and since we are in the seasons of givings. It's a lot of good stuff. And by the way, I came prepared. Got my Snake Sports Talk Show gear, so just so that I can showcase it out to all of you guys. So definitely get your hands on some gear today. So I want to talk a little bit about this trade between Russell Westbrook and John Wall. Listen, here's a few things that I want to end up talking about. And first and foremost, I'll talk about James Harden. The Rockets were in a position that they needed something new. So they go out years ago and they end up signing a kid named James Harden out of Oklahoma City and a really good Arizona State product. James Harden, I think, is a really good ball player. He's a great scorer. You know, he's a guy that puts up buckets. He puts up threes. And, I mean, he's a guy that's going to put in the important shots when you need him to. But here's the problem right now that's happening with Houston. And Houston's in the position where they are going to implode. Because right now, it's over the years since James Harden's been with the Rockets, they failed to get to the NBA Finals. And they had a lot of different pieces. They had Omar Sheik. They had, they got Ben Gordon, PJ Tucker, a lot of these, these big time players. And then eventually they reeled in the real big fish, and that was Chris Paul. But ever since then, Chris Paul put a statement out to Houston and to James Harden. Because Chris Paul, as we've seen last year, goes to Oklahoma City. Goes to Oklahoma City on trade. And everybody thought, okay, he's probably going to end up trading out again. But instead, he stays in Oklahoma City, and they become a playoff team. Nobody expected that at all. Nobody expected, nobody expected them to be a real good team. They were obviously in rebuild, and that's just kind of how it is with, certain teams in the NBA. When you get to that point where you're starting to rebuild, because this is a developmental league, big time developmental league. It's not the NFL, and that's where a lot of people have to realize that. No, this is not the NFL. It takes years to developing a player, making sure he's playing at his absolute best. And that's what Oklahoma City was going to be going through. And it was okay. It's okay. But at that point, um when I saw Oklahoma City play the way that they did, that was a huge statement to Houston and to James Harden. And I think Harden now feels a lot more of that. But here's the other thing too. So Russell Westbrook and John Wall. So this trade here, clearly Washington won this trade by a long shot. Because even though I may have my criticisms about both these players, but Russell Westbrook is clearly better than John Wall. It's clear. With injuries, with his play style, he's clearly better than John Wall, and he's healthier. And so I just felt like that in this situation, Houston imploding, not sure exactly what's going to happen to them in the next couple of years or maybe in the next couple of days now, because now they're just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with James Harden. Is he staying or is he leaving? That's the one case scenario that Houston is now dealt with. And Houston right now has just been dealing with a series of just unfortunate breaks, and this is one of them. So we'll see what happens with Houston in the next couple of days, because right now this is just a time of implosion for them. I don't think they're going to be the same team. And it's kind of unfortunate, but I believe Russell Westbrook and having Bradley Beal there in DC, they'll win a lot more games than where they were before. But I think if you look in the casing of John Wall, he's injury prone, doesn't play the same, and this is kind of now just the start of Houston's downfall. They lost a bunch of key components. They lost Clint Capella, their backboard defender, who I've been saying the second you got Russell Westbrook, it was not going to be good. It forced them to now have to trade away a guy like Clint Capella because he's a talented player, and at the same time, he's going to cost you. But you had to make that rational decision, and unfortunately, they made, I'd say, the wrong rational decision of getting Westbrook instead of thinking of locking in Clint Capella, because they were ranting and raving about this kid. This kid was really, really good. He's a good defender, good second chance shooter, and he was helping Houston in their defense. That's why I was very disappointed at that, and I was very surprised that even happened. So yeah, I just truly think that with where Houston's going, they're imploding. And I don't think they're going to be the best team in the West at this point. If James Harden's gone, then that's it. You lose Clint Capella, you lose Chris Paul, you lose Daryl Morey, and you're right down below where you've got to now fix and shape this thing. And I don't think Houston is going to be in the best position possible really to make that happen. Alrighty, guys. So I know that we've had weird timing starting up with this live stream and everything else, but I really do appreciate you guys coming on by. So my best for last here in this show, as you always know, it's Prime Predictions time, folks, and I have a lot I got to get into from here. I'm excited for this week's Prime Prediction because I do feel like there is a lot that's going to be in store this week. And this is going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be testaments involved. And I think we've already seen the real truths of all teams and what's going to happen now for this week and probably by the time we get into next year. So, all right. So Prime Predictions time. Here we go. All right, so the Saints are on the road in Atlanta and they're taking on the Falcons. And you know what? I mean, the Falcons right now are the Bermuda Triangle of the NFL. I mean, this is a team that you don't know what you're getting like week in, week out. It's kind of unfortunate with this team, and they're already off of Dan Quinn. And this is a team that I think is in rebuild mode. I think more of just rejuvenating the team, and this is where it's an interesting position of where Atlanta is. But I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints -3. Listen, Drew Brees being hurt, we know kind of hurts him, but not that much. In fact, I mean, listen, last year we saw what happened with Teddy Bridgewater. He came in at a big spot for the Saints. And now Taysom Hill is in this position, and he's already got 2 games in his belt. This is game number 3. Now, remind you, Sean Payton was looking for 4 games out of Taysom Hill and seeing exactly how he favors out. If he can get the job done, if he can turn those games they have in the remaining schedules into W's, then at that point, it's not only just being as a role player, but maybe this is thinking of the future for the New Orleans Saints. So I like what this team has done. And Atlanta, they steamrolled the Raiders, but I guarantee you right now that is not going to happen with a competitive team again. So I'm going with the New Orleans Saints -3. That's the points that I'm going for, and we're going with a score of 28-20. So, I think all of us kind of know about this matchup here because right now you've got 2 organizations who one is fresh off of their coach and their general manager. They're now going to start hiring. It's a clear, it is basically the clear decision that they're making right now that they've moved off their head coach. They're going to end up looking for a new one, and they need to get better. So, that's kind of been the story for Detroit, but I'm going with the Chicago Bears here in this one. I know the Bears have had an awful lot of news surrounding them with as far as their quarterback play, because they, first and foremost, they're admitting it to themselves. They whiffed on the quarterbacks. Okay. They whiffed on the quarterback, and Mitch Trubisky is not a guy who has the it factor. And I think it's clear that, Ryan Pace in that draft didn't really make it promising for Bears fans, and they're paying the price, and that's the kind of unfortunate thing for Chicago at this point. And now they're going to have to look for a new quarterback. So, but I do like this defense. I still do like this defense. I think the defense is a type of team that, regardless of what they're, them finding their identity, it's still a team that can make the defensive stops and at the same time be shut down. And with this Detroit offense, with the way that it's been playing, this right here should be a no-brainer for Chicago to really make serious stops. So I'm taking the Chicago Bears. -3 is all I'm getting, 27-23. They'll win this at home in Soldier Field, and I think because this is where they really have to get in depth with their identity. And I think Chicago is going to find that. So, but I'm going with the Bears here, bearing it down 27-23. This is maybe one of the most important games for the Cleveland Browns and Baker Mayfield. It's clear. Right now, Baker Mayfield is in a position where he's now under pressure. He's under pressure because he cannot afford to lose this game. If he does, Cleveland now has some reservations of now who they need to find at quarterback. Because even though I like Baker Mayfield at times, but then in the same sense, he drives me nuts when it comes to you got to rely on him to throwing the football and so much more. And that's where, I think Cleveland, this is arguably the big game, but I am taking Tennessee here in this game. Here's the takeaways from this. The Browns have a really good defense. Myles Garrett and company, they have really, really good defenders. That's a no-brainer. Tennessee, the defense hasn't looked the same. And I think that's going to be a problem. And not to mention, you've got both teams who I think they're very evenly matched. They rely on their run game to make it happen. And I do think that, Cleveland's going to cause problems with their run. But at the same time, you're looking at Tennessee with Derrick Henry, and you're facing off against a real good defense. But, however, the quarterback position is one that I think is going to be the factor, because Ryan Tannehill has looked really good for the Titans. I think at this point, when you look at between him and Baker Mayfield, he's clearly the better quarterback. And so that's where I think Tennessee has the edge. So I think Tennessee, not only are they just going to rely on their run game, but they're going to rely on the passing game with Tannehill. And I think they are going to really utilize it off and on, kind of throw the defense off balance. Mike Vrabel, he's the type of guy that when he plays defensively as a coach, he's also a guy that likes to play chess in these situations. So I think he'll be very successful against Cleveland. I'm taking Tennessee minus 5.5. 28-21 is going to be my score in Nashville. And I do think that the Titans will get it done. So it has been confirmed that we are not going to see Tua this week. Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be under center for the Dolphins. But either way, that shouldn't even scare you, because they're playing the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm taking the Miami Dolphins at minus 11. No brainer from here. Listen, the defense has been getting better. And Brian Flores is capable of coaching in this league. And he's the type of guy that, even if, depending on who's playing quarterback, you're going to get your services out of Ryan Fitzpatrick. There's no doubt about that. You're going to get your services out of him. He's going to put up the points he needs to in order to keep his stocks up. But at the same time, this is where the offense really has to get going for Miami. We know about, some of the unfortunate stuff with, Tua being hurt and everything else. But this defense has really been shut down. And they've got a really, really good week this week against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think it's just going to be a steamroll. The defense is going to be causing problems at quarterback. And I just really think that this is just a no-brainer for Miami. I think they're going to come away with this very, very well. And I mean, they'll walk away with this game at home. So I'm taking the Miami Dolphins here. Minus 11. That's all I need. 30-17 against Cincinnati. It's a lopsided game. Miami wins this. All right, so another lopsided game here is you got Minnesota against the Jags. I'm taking Minnesota here in this game. Listen, you can say what you want to right now about Kirk Cousins, but you know what? I love the offense around him. I love Dalvin Cook, and I love Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. This is where I think for Kirk Cousins, he's really got to end up being spot on here this week, especially when you're facing against a rebuilding Jacksonville team at 1-10. This team, you already clearly know they're going to end up going for quarterback, and I think they're going to end up clearing house because they already had fired their general manager, and this is where they need new juice. And I think, Jacksonville, with the second pick that they have currently intact, that's where it's really gonna matter for them. So I think that Minnesota is going to come in, utilize everybody, work on stuff, and at the same time, the offense is just going to be steamrolling past Jacksonville in a heartbeat. So I'm taking the Vikings winning this game against the Jags. And my final score here for this game is going to be 28-17. Vikings win this game big time. If my colleagues are watching here on this live stream, I better not see that performance against Atlanta against the Jets. Now, I know a lot of people are all kind of, looking at it like, well, this was the most embarrassing loss for the Las Vegas Raiders. Well, you're not wrong there. But at the same time, I don't believe that's going to happen again. I think the Raiders learned from their mistake last week, and I think they're going to turn this around and get a W here this week. I think this is a perfect opportunity for them to rebound. I'm taking the Raiders at 8.5. And listen, the defense has gotten better. The offense, I think, is a huge powerhouse. That's what's really helped out with Derek Carr getting comfortable. But again, it's the offensive line trying to make it comfortable as possible for Derek Carr to be a playmaker. And last week's performance was just all out terrible, and we know that. But I think, to me, they are going to rebound in a big way. And I mean, I just like, this is the perfect opportunity. Look, the Chargers against the Jets, they gave up 28 points. So if you're the Raiders right now, you cannot give any points to the Jets at this point, because now it's basically forcing your upper hand, and now you got to end up coming up ways with shutting down this team. So I'm taking the Raiders 30-13. I think they're going to end up steamrolling them in New York. And I better not see that performance that I saw in Atlanta. Prove me wrong on this one. So an in-division matchup that I really do like, and it's the Colts and the Texans. I'm taking the Indianapolis Colts at -3. This Colts defense, we know, has given up at least some points, but at the same time, they are the type of team that will continuously fight for possessions. They'll fight for takeaways. And I mean, this is a good team. But again, the offense seems a little bit of like a pop gun offense, but you have to think about who is at quarterback. And I do think that the Colts are going to end up winning this game against the Texans right now. I mean, that defense has really been working hard for for the Colts. I think that this has really been working out well for them, and hopefully we'll see. We'll see exactly what will happen here in this game, but I'm really liking what I'm seeing in this matchup. I think the Colts are going to end up going on the road. The defense is going to be strong in this game, and it's going to cause problems for Deshaun Watson. Right now, I mean, he doesn't even have a comfortable pocket as it is. I think we all know that just by watching this entire season. So I'm taking the Indianapolis Colts at -3. Let's go with the 27-24 score here in Houston. So we got the LA Rams and the Arizona Cardinals. This is going to be a really, really good game. This was tough for me to figure out who I was going to end up picking here this week, but I am taking the LA Rams. Here's my takeaway with this. Okay. Aaron Donald and that Rams defense, they're preparing for Kyler Murray. They're preparing for anything out of him. And Kyler Murray, we know, is having a really good season, a big-time season this year. But is it big to the point where Arizona is a complete game-changing team? Not yet, but they are working their ways toward it. But I do think that the Rams, with their defense, we know, listen, Jared Goff last week did not look like himself. He didn't look comfortable, and I think he was forcing a lot of mistakes. But I do think that the Rams are going to rebound in a big way. I think the defense is going to be the catalyst from here. They'll make this happen. I'm going with the Rams, -3. And let's go with a score of 28-21. They get the job done on the road in Arizona against the Cardinals. All right, so, you're talking about a rebuilding team where their defense is looking really, really good, and they're facing off against Russell Wilson. I don't think they'll be that good against Russ. I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks at -11. Russ is having a heck of a year, and I think the Seattle Seahawks, now I know I watched what Monday night's game gave us with that, but I do think that the team has been looking much, much better. And I think that it's really kind of shaped up well because getting Carlos Dunlap and Jamal Adams has really helped them in the long run. But I do like what I'm seeing out of the Giants and Joe Judge. That's no doubt. I think the defense has shaped up very, very well. This, I think, is going to be an interesting task for Joe Judge to containing a guy like Russell Wilson. And I think with a rebuilding defense, with as good as they've been playing in the last couple of weeks, I really am going to be liking this matchup. I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks 33-20 at home. They'll be comfortable. Pete Carroll, I think, is very much going to end up utilizing a lot of his defenders to stopping the Giants. Now, cross your fingers, Giants fans, that you're hoping that Daniel Jones is healthy. But even regardless of that, I think Seattle, they're going to be comfortable at home, 33-20. So as I've been talking about here this week, I've been ranting and raving. This is a testament game. Patriots at the Chargers. Now, here's the takeaway. I'm going with New England at +1.5. However, let me just say this. I want a hot take in this one. This is a testament game, not just for Justin Herbert, but for Bill Belichick. Belichick has been high praising the Chargers offense in the last couple of days. He spent more than 15 minutes talking about Justin Herbert and the game changer he has been. He had never shed away time talking about Tom Brady at all. In the years that Tom has been in New England, he's never done that for him. And I think, to be honest, this testament game, if Justin Herbert makes plays against Belichick's defensive schematics, that should be telling you one thing about Belichick. And I truly think this is my hot take, that I think I'm going to see Belichick in different threads next year. And I think this is exactly the team he'll be with. But I am going with the New England Patriots 23-21. 1.5 is all you need. That's all I need from here. Because as close of a game it is, it's going to be a grinder on both sides because New England, Belichick has the tendency to make it uncomfortable for younger quarterbacks. Young quarterbacks have never been successful against him. But I think this makes up the exception, and I do think it's going to be close to the wire in overtime. All right, so this is right now kind of a no-brainer at this point. The Eagles are a complete mess, and they're on the road in Lambeau facing against Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. But I am going with the Packers here at 8.5. Look, first and foremost, that defense of Green Bay is not that good. Okay, it's not that flashy. All you need is just Aaron Rodgers to be throwing dimes, like putting up 30-plus points a week. And that's the only thing that has been the DNA for the Green Bay Packers because they realize, and Matt LaFleur knows this, that the defense is not that great. They are not they're not at the top of defenses when it comes to takeaways. They're the worst team when it comes to takeaways. They don't even like to take the football away. And they lost a big-time linebackers. But in this week, because of the fact of Philadelphia just being a complete mess for them with Carson Wentz, all the mistakes that they've made, and the injuries. But I think Green Bay is definitely walking away with this at home. 30-17 is going to be my final score. Philadelphia, we know they're going to be cleaning house, and I think it's going to be starting from the top until it gets to the bottom. All right, so Broncos at Chiefs, right? I mean, you already kind of know how lopsided this game is going to be. I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs at -13.5. Look, the Broncos right now, they are not locked in, no pun intended. They don't trust Drew Lock a whole lot. And not to mention last week, all the quarterbacks caught COVID. And this just kind of tells you the mess that Denver is going with. And so it's unfortunate. And I think Denver really has, just they've been hit with injuries, but at the same time, they really haven't gotten the quarterback right. They haven't gotten the quarterback right, and I think that it's it's really showing for itself. But I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is just going to steamroll them, 33-14 at home. Chiefs Kingdom continues to be protected. And as long as Patrick Mahomes is throwing those dimes, and especially with how Tyreek Hill was playing week in, week out, should be no-brainer. All right, as much as right now I do not trust this team in Pittsburgh, I'm going with them anyway at -7. Listen, I don't know what's going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Everybody is all telling me, but they're 11-0, Jake. Come on now. Listen, I never, ever rant and rave about teams when it comes to their records. If it shows that they don't look like the same team, that should scare you going into the playoffs. Because if you're going to the playoffs with a team like that in the last 2 weeks, Pittsburgh's in trouble. But I'm going with them this week at -7 against the Washington football team. We already know outside of their defense that the offense, I love Terry McLaurin. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think you're going to get the same impactful offense as they did against Dallas last week in Thanksgiving. But I do think it's going to be a heck of a matchup between the two of them. But I think the Steelers are going to end up getting the last laugh. So I'm going with Pittsburgh, going 28-20. And they'll improve to 12-0. But they better play out better this week than they did in the last 2 weeks. So, of course, this is an even bet line here between the Bills and the 49ers. You're kind of looking at the same similar team when it comes to defenses and their setups, but I'm taking the Buffalo Bills on the road in Arizona instead of San Francisco because with Santa Clara County, we talked about this with Jay in the Bay earlier. This is going to be very interesting to see how San Francisco plays. But I think the Bills and Josh Allen, last week against the Chargers, they had a bunch of problems. They gave up the ball. They gave up the ball 3 times, but yet at least the team did not give up more points. Tre'Davious White and Tremaine Edmonds, I think, have been the catalysts in their defense, but I do think they're going to end up rebounding. They need to keep the football on their side, keep the possession on their offense. Don't force any giveaways because at this point, I mean, they got lucky. They dodged a bullet against the Chargers last week. But I think the Bills are going to be cleaned up. I think they're going to be looking better. But this will be an interesting game playing in Arizona. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills 27-24, and they'll definitely win it against San Francisco. All right, and then this one's another no-brainer game, but I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens against the Dallas Cowboys. You're going to have Lamar Jackson back as he is cleared from COVID restrictions. And he will be starting. Look, last week we know was just kind of a dud with throwing in RG3. But, however, Trace McSorley looked really, really interesting. So I'm keeping that kid in the back of my head and what I may see with Baltimore. But I think the defense is just going to be causing problems for Andy Dalton. He's going to look like a beige water pistol against that defense. It's no doubt about that. It's just completely lopsided. So I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens. 28-14 at home. They're going to steamroll the Cowboys. So those are my picks this week. And I really am excited about it. So I'm taking the favored Saints, the favored Bears, the favored Titans, the favored Dolphins, Vikings, Raiders, the Colts, the Rams, the Seahawks, the underdog. I only have one underdog this week, and that's New England. I have one underdog this week. So I'm taking the Patriots, the underdogs there, and then the rest of them are favorites between the Packers, Chiefs, Steelers, Bills. I mean, that game's an even game. So I'm taking the Bills anyway, and then taking the favored Ravens. So I really am liking this. I think that my prime predictions this week is going to be very, very spot on. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it, guys. Have a great Saturday morning, and, of course, have a great week ahead. We really do appreciate you guys hopping on. Here, real quick, before we go, here is a good word from our good friends at Thrive Fantasy.
What's up, Fantasy Champions? Spotlight Sports Network is excited to tell you about an amazing deal from Thrive Fantasy, your place for daily fantasy sports and esports. Right now, with promo code SS Network, Thrive Fantasy will match up to $50 of your first deposit. So go to thrivefantasy.com and sign up now with promo code SS Network. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network.
All righty, folks. We really do appreciate it. You guys have a great day, and we will see you on Tuesday night as we've got our new days, Tuesdays and Wednesday nights back to back at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. So don't miss it here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Take care, guys.